Good morning, folks. Whether you're gloriously accursed or miserably accursed, we're back. Curse of Politics panel, Jordan Leichnitz, Scott Reid, Kory Teneycke, myself, David Herle. Here we are, Wednesday, April 23rd. Getting down to the short strokes in this campaign. So busy we have to do two podcasts today because we're doing a live podcast tonight for our friends at Creative Currency at the Steam Whistle in Toronto. That's going to be fun. Going to be great to see you in person, Jordan.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Don't get to do that often.
See me in person or do a live Curse of Politics?
See you in person.
Oh.
I guess both.
They kind of go together normally.
They do a little. Yeah, they do.
So we got a few things to talk about today. Of course, we'll have Polera polling. We also have the Conservative platform yesterday. We've got Carney in Quebec yesterday. We got a few things to talk about. But first, we've got from Politico, Nick Taylor-Vasey. How are you, Nick?
I'm good. I'm chipper. Leafs are up 2-0. I feel great. The sun is shining. It's wonderful.
There you go.
Yeah.
They look good. They look more like a playoff team this year than any other previous incarnation, I'd say.
The hope is real this year. The hope is. It's hard to hope, but it's there.
You sound like a New Democrat, Nick.
You know, Scott, you can't, like in the old days when Jenny was on this thing, if you'd said something that nice about the Leafs, she'd have come to the screen. You're not allowed to.
I know.
Right?
I think 17 years of being in Toronto is starting to wear on me a little bit. I'm obviously a Habs fanatic, but I do find myself sort of hoping the Leafs don't.
You got Berube mania.
Yeah. Don't worry, I still hate the Bruins.
Yeah. All right, Nick, what's going on in the campaign today?
Well, we have a little bit of mystery today. We don't know where Mark Carney is spending his day. No itinerary. His team was very guarded when I just sort of sent a couple of curious texts like, hey.
You think he's returned to Ottawa to better calculate the spending projections of the Conservatives? Fuck.
Yeah, CP, who usually, these reporters typically have a pretty good sense of where people are at, just say he has no public events scheduled. So I don't know if that's definitive or if they're as in the dark as I am. But
no chance he's joining Champaign in Washington, eh?
Well, let's join the popular internet rumor that Poilievre is going to be on the Joe Rogan podcast, and maybe he's flying to Austin to try to beat him to it.
I heard that 3 weeks ago. Let's do Rogan.
Yeah, let's just throw wild rumors out.
You look very Don Johnson this morning, Kory. You look you're kind of Sonny Crockett going. I'm digging it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to do a burnout in the Corvette in front of the Steam Whistle Brewery for all of our assembled fans.
That I don't doubt.
All right. Well, so that's strange enough. Nick will be watching that to see what's going on. They obviously must have something up their sleeve.
There must be something up those Liberal sleeves. Pierre Poilievre is back in Hamilton. He's in Stony Creek this morning. He's going to make an announcement. He will have probably made it by the time this pod is live into the world.
Nick, why do people always go to Stony Creek? Yeah, like if you are covering campaigns, people say, "Well, I'm going to Hamilton," but then they always stop in Stony Creek. What's the magnetic draw of Stony Creek?
I mean, if it's because of the competitiveness of ridings. Hamilton Center is not a place that Pierre Poilievre is probably going to spend a ton of time. And Hamilton West, Ancaster, the sort of western side that has been relatively liberal for last decade. Yeah. Stony Creek is that kind of, my understanding of it is it's this blue collar riding with a lot of steel workers and a lot of people who every party seems to think is up for grabs. Liberals took it last time. NDP has held it for a number of years in recent years. And it's like right in that Pierre Poilievre Venn diagram of blue collar, and he had that big rally out there earlier in the campaign, and people came from all over for that. So it seems to be the part of town that also is near the QEW and is away from traffic. Maybe
there's also a conference center or an event center of some sort there that makes it
right. That's right. What I figured. Right off
Scott, I'm reluctant to mention specific ridings because of our record. But that was
Stony Creek. Isn't that in Nova Scotia?
That is,
I believe.
You know what? Peter McKay's running there.
Peter
McKay's running there.
Excited to see Scott Bryson can pull it out. But that was Tony Valeri's riding, wasn't it?
Well, that was the scene of the epic cage match between Sheila Copps and Tony Valeri in
Indeed
2008.
The buses blocking the routes.
Yeah. All right. So Poilievre's in Hamilton, and Singh is
there's a quick segue to Nova Scotia because Poilievre is finishing the day there in Central Nova. Of all ridings.
David and I got mail.
Nothing for me. I'm sorry. I've got nothing.
I actually thought it was in Trenton, Ontario, and I thought, oh, what a useful place for me to drive on the way to Toronto today to catch that. But no, it's in the other Trenton in Nova Scotia in Sean Fraser's backyard.
Okay.
Yeah, and Singh, he starts the day in Edmonton. He has an announcement. He's joining a Assembly of First Nations virtual forum early afternoon his time, and then he'll finish the day in Winnipeg with a rally or an event of some kind.
Okay.
Yeah. Sean Fraser's former chief of staff, Savannah, sent a note to me yesterday asking explicitly, David, that you and I not attempt to mention the rally in Sean's riding for fear that we would brutally fuck it up, and we would identify someone else as the Liberal standard bearer there.
Yeah. I'm not commenting. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I'm not gonna bite. All right, Nick. Thanks very much. It's great to see you. We will see you Friday.
See you on Friday.
As the Trump administration continues disrupting the Canada-U.S. trade relationship, it's reassuring to know CANDU reactors are Canadian designed, and they're helping to ensure our energy security. CANDU reactors have been powering the Canadian economy for more than 60 years. Current CANDUs have been updated and modernized to meet today's standards, but there's a need to build new reactors in Ontario to buttress our existing high-functioning fleet and help secure our energy independence with clean baseload power. These reactors also provide critical access to life-saving medical isotopes used in hospitals across Canada and around the world. Unlike other large reactor technologies that rely on foreign sources of enriched uranium, CANDU reactors use natural uranium mined and prepared in Canada. President Trump can't mess with our fuel. Equally important, the construction of the next generation of large reactors in Ontario help ensure our skilled manufacturing base of high-paying union jobs, threatened by Trump's tariffs, will be in demand as we build a fleet of reactors in the decades to come. These large CANDU reactors will provide Ontario with much-needed additional power. At the same time, investments in small modular reactors will be necessary too, particularly in remote locations for resource development. CANDU technology, designed by Canadians, built by Canadians, for the benefit of Canadians. Let's get moving. Polera Polling is brought to you by Enbridge, a leading Canadian energy infrastructure company, reliably and affordably fueling your quality of life and powering our economy. Give me a drum roll. All right. So this is, they've upped their daily sample, so they're shortening the tracking period. So this is 3 days. So from Friday through to Tuesday. Liberals 43, Conservatives 37, NDP 8, Bloc 7, Green 3, PPC 2. Quebec, Liberals 48, Conservatives 39, NDP 9.
What?
What?
Is that
Ontario?
Quebec?
Must be Ontario.
No,
I think
Ontario.
that's
Sorry,
Ontario.
did I?
Yep.
Oh my God. Okay, Ontario, Liberals 48, CPC 39, NDP 9. Quebec, Liberals 36, Bloc 30, CPC 22. And BC, Jordan, is Liberals 48, CPC 33, NDP 12. And I don't know if something's really happening in BC, but Abacus found this too.
Mm-hmm.
Some Liberal lead growing in British Columbia, but you know, the margins of error on the yeah. For a little bit more specificity, men under the age of 50 are CPC plus 19. Men over the age of 50 are Liberal plus 10, despite the driving range ad. Women under the age of 50 are Liberal plus 11, and women over the age of 50 are Liberal plus 19. And my last little tidbit, and it's a good one for you. Polera has 487 people who say they voted in the advance poll. The Liberals have a 17-point lead among those people. So The 18 to 34s, 13% of them voted in the advanced poll. 35 to 49, 20% voted in the advanced poll. 50 to 64, 21% voted in the advanced poll. And 65 plus, 25% voted in the advanced poll.
All right. I like those 65-year-old plus. Get out there. Pull on your stretch pants. Have some yogurt. Wheel yourself to the voting booth.
Grab that oxygen tank.
I'm 60.
Moving.
I'm 63. You fucker.
Yeah. Sorry. Listen.
You think in 2 years I'm going to be riding a little scooter around in my fucking velour tracksuit?
I
hope you have a velour tracksuit. That sounds awesome,
David.
Yeah, that's
we're gonna get you a big Canada flag for the back on a stick, and
that's right.
You can tie Ryder's leash to the handlebars, and away you guys go off to the park.
That's terrible.
So it's narrowing it. Like, I mean, everyone is showing like 10-ish point gap, a little bit less than 10 points in Ontario. It feels like it's tightening up. It's like 6, 7, 8 points in Quebec now over the Bloc.
6.
Like,
6. Precisely.
Yeah. So like that means that the Bloc are still coming up. When does it stop? Is it the day before the election? Like, is it the day after? I don't know. It's getting a little, and we spent yesterday jerking off about party platforms and who's appropriately allowing for growth as a consequence of tax cuts. Like, Jesus, get back to Trump. I hope he's in Washington.
And also the fact that increasingly the ballot, like a good chunk of ballots are in the ballot box. So everything is slightly diminishing returns over the population of voters left who haven't voted.
Scott, I didn't mind Carney's day yesterday, to be honest. I thought there were 2 things about it that were good. One of which he was in Quebec, and he was trying to set that frame. He was, Blanchet cannot defend your culture, cannot defend your uniqueness. That has to be the prime minister. I'm promising to do it for you. So that's what I would have advised him to be saying.
I agree, and I liked a lot of the Streeter stuff we saw. He looked like he was, And
I thought the response to the platform cleverly brought it back to the Trump situation when he said these numbers are a joke, and this situation is not a joke. This situation is the most serious crisis of our lifetime, and you need a serious plan. That's the right response to that platform.
I agree. But it's a day with Donald Trump smeared like peanut butter all over my toast.
Yeah, but it's dissipating, Scott. That's the fucking reality. It is dissipating.
But it's also within their power to create moments for that. I think that's the thing that's interesting, is that they don't seem to be seeking to create pinch points on the Trump issue in the way that you might if you were desperately trying to drive it as a ballot question. Although I will say yesterday, I do think that he did a couple things well in the response. And the first one was it was a very attacky response. And secondly, it was very focused on Trump. And he resisted the urge to deep dive into any of the many things you could in the platform, stayed pretty high level and pretty focused on this not meeting the moment with Trump. So I thought that was an improvement. It didn't devolve into a policy debate, but neither are they driving the Trump story as forward themselves here in Canada.
Well, what I'll say on the polling, first is a recommendation for folks who are interested in why Poilievre isn't in the ads anymore. Look at the Leger survey that came out yesterday. It's a pretty deep dive into the leadership stuff, and I think it gives a good illustration as to why that's happening. Second is, look, no disrespect to Polera, but we've done a lot more surveys in Ontario in the last few days, and it's not, it's between 10 and 15% gap there still, and it hasn't really moved since the second week of the campaign.
Well, from Nick's lips to God's ears.
God, I hope. Come on, I'm counting on Greek power.
So let's look at Poilievre's day for a second, though. The day was about them yesterday. They had the field, released the platform. Jordan, what do you think?
Oh, they cocked it up. It was terrible. I mean, look, if we apply the same standard, and I think we should apply a similar standard to them that we do to the Liberals is like, did this exercise serve to reinforce the ballot question that your party's trying to drive this election? And it didn't. So instead of something that was tight, that underscored, for example, their offer on affordability, they had a platform that I would argue covered the waterfront almost as much as the Liberal platform did, but with changes in it that undermined their messages on taxation. So, for example, their personal income tax cut, it turns out, is going to be more in the back years of the costing. So it muddied the message on that. There was, of course, significant debate about their revenue sources and their estimates about economic growth that is also muddying the message from this platform. I mean, this looks like a document that was rushed. The fact that they were going to do technical briefing, which they then pulled at the last minute, doesn't suggest that this was all terribly well planned out on their part. And I think that there's enough stuff in here for their opponents to make hay over the next few days. So I don't think it passed the test of reinforcing their core ballot message. And I think it did damage to them, actually. So I think overall it was a really bad day for them. I don't think it helped Poilievre in his leadership issues, right? Which is really one of the fundamental challenges they're facing. Did he look more prime ministerial yesterday coming out of this? I don't think so. They were able to use this to reinforce some issues that are exciting for their base, but I don't think that they have succeeded in winning anybody new with this. And the choices that they've made about mainstream media and cutting off access to them are now also blowing back on them in that they have difficulty getting their story out that way. So the coverage was really rough.
All right. Kory, what'd you take?
That they would have been better not to do it. Like I don't think anything was gained in doing it. I largely agree with Jordan that the coverage is pretty spotty for them. And I thought, like as I said yesterday, I thought they won the platform battle 2-0. And why the hell they decided to do that is beyond me, because I think there are a lot of questions around the viability of that plan. And their narrative around Carney and the Liberals racking up big deficits and adding to the debt and having a weak fiscal plan. I thought they landed those hits quite well in their criticism of the Liberal platform. And when you look at the Conservative plan, it isn't any fucking better, really. Not in a way that some fiscal hawk's going to look at it and say, "Oh, well, there's fiscal discipline for you, running $30 billion plus deficits, etc." It's not. Yeah, I don't know why they did it. I don't know why they did it.
Scott?
I think I might have a slightly more charitable attitude, but ultimately I agree with Kory's conclusion that it was a dead day for them. It was a lost day, in the same sense that the platform day was a lost day for Carney. I think Carney's might have been a little more damaging in that it set an unfavorable frame for a couple of days. But I thought the reason I'm not maybe quite as harsh is that I thought that with what they had, which was a big unwieldy platform that doesn't add up, and had what we expected and what we predicted yesterday, which is a kind of a bullshit stretch in the middle of it. So because if you're going to cut taxes deeper and still spend on military and a bunch of other things, then you can't make it add up. So you have to imagine there's a magical growth coming from someplace, and that is indeed what happened, and they got busted on it. But I thought that they managed within those boundaries to position it more as a reaction to Carney and as a more disciplined focus. I thought the two opportunities they missed was to really concentrate on a single cost of living relief measure to try to drive their thing, get it away from the numbers. And it's hard on platform day for it to be anything but the numbers.
Well, I'm going to have to interrupt you now. And people on, you know what, our audience hates it when I interrupt people. And yet I've interrupted you. And yet I've interrupted you. There's a lot of speculation that there were last minute changes to the Conservative plan. And in particular, one late change that appears to have occurred because they were publicly on the record about their tax cut, their personal tax cut, that it would come into effect immediately and it would have a $7 billion annual hit a year. And it turns out it doesn't. And they had produced documents that said this. And it turns out now they phase it in. And so it actually only reaches, I think, its full potential year 3 or year 4. And it doesn't exist at all in year 1. And it's very modest in the next year. And that would have been the reason I bring this up.
Right.
Is that would have been the signature thing to be selling, except that they decided to gut it. I wonder what the backstory is behind all that.
I don't know. Maybe they felt that self-imposed pressure that they'd already stretched the numbers so far that they couldn't make them add up any other way. Not that they add up anyhow. I'm not sure. And that would be my sort of bottom
I don't know
line.
why they just don't grow the economy more and balance the budget.
Exactly.
It's like, if you're just making numbers up, just make them up to cover that.
Not one Easter bunny, it's 2. Who cares? There is no fucking Easter bunny. So like, but I thought the big takeaway, I think, for like, you sort of look at these things and go, well, what's the mass takeaway? What's the sort of general public takeaway? And then what's the expert takeaway? The expert takeaway, you had like the likes of Trevor Toon beating it up and saying the numbers don't add up. So you sort of lose on that very kind of narrow strip, right, of those people that care about these things and write about them. Mike Moffat's just mailing it and all that kind of stuff. And then in the sort of like guys sitting around in the bar and bus station looking up at the TV, they hear 100 billion going to be added to the debt. And then I think Carney was 132 billion or something. Like it's all like $1 squillion is added by these guys. And then $1 squillion is added by those guys. So the differentiation is, lost on people. And so, yeah, I thought it was kind of a lost day for them, and reinforces our general thesis, which is this pod has now been retitled "We Hate Platforms."
Yeah, but like
platforms blow.
To try to put it in maybe simpler terms, anyone looking at that platform has a lesser view of the Conservatives' ability to manage the country's finances than they had going into it. Like the assumptions that the public had with the accepted notion that I even think the national media had, who are no friends of the Conservatives, was better for the Conservatives than what it was at the end of the platform. So if you're releasing a costed platform is to highlight your fiscal bona fides, it did the opposite. And so why do it?
And I mean, to me, the cardinal sin here is that you've muddied and weakened your signature policy commitment. Like you've taken something that was supposed to be your flagship on affordability, which is these tax cuts, and now admitted to people that they're not coming in until the end of your mandate.
Here's the misery of modern campaigning. No one even, that may be true, but no one really knows that. Like no one kind of heard, like it's 4 days before the end of the campaign or whatever. No one really knows. I know the Liberals are circulating that on socials and so forth, but I don't know.
The understanding of people is much more impressionistic than that. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not deep.
And I think the impressionistic withdrawal was, I don't know, they're all promising to spend $1 squillion.
Not a lot of differentiation, and puts it more into what I think the Liberal frame earlier was, which is, you can have almost all the same policies that the Conservatives are promising, but with none of the asshole. And it's that was where they were earlier in the campaign, and I think this platform kind of brings it closer to that, not further away.
Yeah.
Can I ask a big question? And I want everyone's honest opinion on this. Like,
no, you shouldn't.
You know what? Why don't I?
We only give dishonest opinions here. There's no room for honest opinions.
I'm just gonna have to lift my shirt, I think, in order to complete the question. Do you guys think this is shaped oddly? The question on my mind.
How long has that been there?
How long has that rash?
Oh, well.
It's quite the rash.
I'm gonna get Scott a family doctor.
Used to look like a heart. Now, yesterday, Carney goes to Quebec, right? And we've seen some narrowing in Quebec. He goes to Quebec, spends a whole day there. Let's say on balance, we thought organically in Quebec it played okay. I mean, none of us have any feel for it. We're not watching French media. We don't speak French. I mean, I culturally, of course, am very, very close to, my Gallic brothers and sisters, but still, we don't really know much. And then today he's winging it out to BC.
He got a great headline in Le Devoir, and I am reliably told that 7,500 people read Le Devoir. So,
well, there you have it. So that there we go. So there's
on a good day, on a Saturday.
Half of whom are in Ottawa.
So Nick just texted us and told us that Carney is actually, his ITIN is out and he's going to BC. He's going to hit Surrey and New Westminster. Okay, that makes sense. Going to hit suburban BC. So my question is, does it help? Like, we still haven't seen a motherfucking ad, and the ads have to come down on Sunday. And so like, how much of a difference does it make to put the leader in BC? Does that help? Does it boost the campaign's fortune? Do people really sort of withdraw? How much does it help to put him in Quebec? Maybe Quebec is different because it's its own, unique island of culture and language. But I mean, like, does it help? Does it make a difference? Would it be better to just put him in the 905 and have him pound on Trump so that he can like sort of wing off, or like just go from one auto manufacturer to another for the next 4 days?
I don't know.
I'm not suggesting as an alternative. I'm just asking. Like,
you people on the call may be more current than I am, but in the Martin campaigns, and Paul was popular even when he lost. He had good leadership numbers right to the end, and there was no question, even in the dying days of 06, our tracking program was robust enough to determine that when he went to a part of the country, our numbers would be goosed in that part of the country for a period of time. And now there was a lot more media influence back then than there is a lot more mainstream media influenced back then than there is now. So maybe it's not as pronounced, but Carney has terrific numbers. And I presume he does get more media in the BC market when he's there. And I presume it helps to go places still. Kory, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it helps. I think it helps. I think it helps less than it once did, because you would get a local media boost. I don't think local media really exists in most of the country anymore, and I do think the images that you're moving are important, as well. So yeah, like, look, there's still a disproportional focus on leaders' tours compared to other things going on in the campaign, and it is important. So yeah, it makes a difference, just probably less than it once did, but still worth doing.
Right. So the Bloc joined the NDP in the explicit call for balance to Carney yesterday, right? Blanchette was pretty much explicit that Carney was going to be the prime minister, and what you needed was Bloc members. And the NDP, of course, have been saying that explicitly for a while and implicitly for even longer than that. Is a 4-point lead in Abacus or Leger enough to execute that strategy? Jordan, what do you think?
You mean, is it enough for it to be worthwhile for the Bloc to make that?
Is it enough? Is the Liberal lead? Are Canadians confident enough that Carney will win to do that?
I think that Canadians are becoming increasingly confident that Carney will win. Certainly the numbers that I've seen suggest that. And that is a prerequisite for this type of an argument to work. And look, I mean, I think it's a smart argument for both the New Democrats and the Bloc to make. This is existential for both of them. And it's not a time for dignity. It's a time to get out there and make the most effective case possible. And for both of these parties, that lies in tempering whatever a Liberal majority will bring forward. So I think it's probably a bit late for the Bloc to make that appeal. We're only 5 days out now. We've had a significant number of people turn out at the advance. So I would question if they have enough time to allow that to penetrate. But I think it's absolutely the right argument to be making. And as time moves forward, you're going to see, I think, growing certainty about the outcome of the election, which makes the electorate more able to receive that argument.
That's why I'm taking my Winnebago full of worries to a community near you. I'm driving it all around the country to share in my anxiety. The White Knuckle Tour is coming next, because I know that people seem to be assuming that Carney's going to win, but I look at these numbers and I'm still worried. I'm worried that the Bloc move it's not completed, that they're rising, and there's going to be a lot of seats shed in Quebec. And so I am worried about the that message could be effective. And I'm not worried that it's going to help the NDP win seats. I'm worried that it's going to help the Bloc win seats and that it reinforces the logic and message for the last 4 or 5 days in Quebec. That's where I'm most
I'd be
worried
tempted to refute the Bloc and the NDP directly from Kearney and have him tell Canadians, actually, this thing is fucking close. They're doing a bit of a march to victory kind of thing, but I think they should ring the bells.
Yeah, for sure. That's the smart move is to beat the drum of the imminent threat of a conservative government. There's nothing that will unify progressives under the banner of the Liberals faster.
Doesn't BC give them that natural opportunity? Because BC, you can say you can characterize it, and some polls still show this as like it's a very tight race. Nick Nanos's number showed us a 4-point gap.
Yeah. I know there's a tendency to want to appear inevitable, but I think they're stronger right now if they appear vulnerable.
Well, it's an interesting choice, right? Because there is an advantage in also looking like the winner, right? And a lot of Canadians who are making up their mind about who they're going to vote for in these last 5 days are going to want to go with the winner. So I think that there's a thought that projecting that confidence is also a significant draw for the Kearney campaign. So you'd have to pick your path.
Well, I was just scrolling through the Leger poll because I know they asked this question, but who do you think is going to win the next election? Mark Carney, 55, up 2, Conservatives, 25, down 3. I'd like to see the 2% of people who think Jagmeet Singh's going to win,
God love him.
or the 1% that think that the Green Party's going to win.
Yeah.
I guess people with brain injuries, but yeah, I think it's out there that people think the Liberals are going to win the election for good or bad. But I agree with you, David. It's mostly for bad. Like, I think the more things are up in the air, the more you suppress the NDP vote. I'm not sure if it has the same effect to the same degree in Quebec, because I think the surge there was more about Trump and less about the other. It might actually be going the other direction in Quebec, where there's a desire to give the Bloc the balance of power. I think like a Liberal minority with a Bloc holding the balance of power, that's like a lot of Quebecers' dream come true.
Yeah.
Do we think the advanced numbers tell us anything that's reassuring for the Liberals there? Like, do you guys? I'm wondering.
Well, like what I heard in the voting numbers is this election is like every other fucking election. Older people vote more often.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if the
precisely 2 to 1, as we've always been saying.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's happening. So that's positive for the Liberals, and it means that there's a bit of an organic, older folks do wheel themselves to the ballot booth. But also, like, even though the advanced numbers are up 25% as compared to 2021, are we sure that we're going to get
this is becoming an ageist
result?
campaign? Between you and Lisa Reid on Power and Politics the other day, old people are starting to get bashed, and I won't stand for it.
No, you should be their champion.
You should sit for it.
With every white hair on this beard,
that's
I'm
right.
going to
Get yourself to the breakfast buffet, put some cream cheese on your bagel, and you stand up and you rally your people, David.
We're coming. We're charging. All right. Blessing or curse?
I got a curse. And I want to be really explicit because I know that I'll get all kinds of grief about this. And I'm going to say this, even though I'm really glad the Liberal campaign did not yesterday. But there was something in the Conservative campaign. My curse goes out to them. There was something in the Conservative platform yesterday that bugged me. And it's not that they say, oh, it's okay to work in the public service without a post-secondary degree. I'm not offended by that. And it's not that we would celebrate those who are in the trades or those that decide for whatever reason to not go and pursue a post-secondary education. What bugs me, and my curse goes out, is that attending all of that, attached to all of that, was this online discussion led by a bunch of conservatives, a bunch of chest beating and ballyhooing and snark toward upper education. Snark toward, all those snots in their ivy towers, all those people with their useless arts degrees. It's time they took it in the ass. And you know what? Enough. Neither of my folks finished high school. But my mom worked doubles and Sundays in part so that I could go to university. And yes, I got a flimsy arts degree, general arts history degree, but I believe that education is a public good. I believe that on a personal level, it is a ladder that allows people to rise. And I think it is wrong to denigrate the value and the virtue of public education. I think it's wrong and ridiculous to suggest that a general arts education is a waste of time and something that society ought not to value. And I think this kind of reverse snark about anybody that's ever decided to pursue a degree is obnoxious in the extreme. And that doesn't mean that I'm against the trades, and it doesn't mean that I'm against working people. Just the opposite. Those are the people from whom I come. But, education is a good thing. Education is an engine that carries people and societies and nations forward. And all this kind of celebratory bashing of education just seems to me to be ridiculous.
And people like you and I are proof that you can have university education and not in any way be elite.
Exactly.
Or impressive, even.
That's precisely it.
And not come out as communists. I mean, disappointingly for all of us, really.
Just pisses me off.
Jordan.
Okay, well, I'm also going to indulge in picking at a part of the conservative platform. So the conservative platform, notably for a campaign that's having trouble with women, mentions women 4 times. And 3 of those times is in a section that is an anti-trans dog whistle. And so my curse today is going out to the conservatives for this. We have arrived at a point now in Canada where it is not the left that is bringing up trans issues. It is the right that is bringing up trans issues. It is, in fact, the last refuge of flailing conservative campaigns like Blaine Higgs, like Scott Moe when he was in trouble. Now Pierre Poilievre is punching down on some of the most vulnerable people in Canada just because he wants to provide a dog whistle to a certain segment of his base. By the way, anybody who has concerns about trans issues is probably already voting for the Conservatives. So my curse is going out to the Conservative campaign because this stuff is actively very harmful. Trans people are not trying to convert. They are just out there trying not to die and live their lives. And when politicians make it a point to go after them in political campaigns for craven political reasons, it puts people at risk. So that's my curse.
Well, Jesus, Kory, we've got 2 pretty high-minded soliloquies here so far this morning. Thank you for that, Jordan.
When they go high, I go low. Okay. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Well, I was going to give a blessing to Andrew Renz at Leger. I think I know I referenced their latest poll, but I've worked with Andrew a number of times over the years. He was Harper's pollster for most of the Harper years. I think he's done some incredible work, not just in this campaign, but anyway, I was particularly intrigued at this latest survey put out there. So I want to throw a blessing Andrew's way. Keep it up, buddy. You're shedding light on the race in ways that I find interesting.
All right. All right. My curse goes out to the conservative platform also for math. I really think that Kory made an exceptionally important point earlier, which is if they needed to do anything in their platform, they needed it to appear competent and they needed it to appear managerially responsible. That was the contrast that they were pushing with the Trudeau government. And I think if I had a blessing, I would say, they've really understood that they should be running the Conservative Party against the Liberal Party, not Poilievre against Carney, and they've understood that. But part of the Conservative offering, and especially important at this time, is economic management that you can trust. And I think just like Tim Hudak in 2014 with their platform, they took that ace away from themselves, at least to some extent. And I think they made some mistakes in that platform that they should have known they weren't going to be able to slide by. So, all right, folks. So we'll see you all tonight at the Steam Whistle Brewery, and we'll be in good form. Scott, don't drink too much.
I am going to drink too
That
much.
is my job on this panel.
Disagree.
That is my job on this panel.
Do drink too much.
I'm going at 4:00. The event starts at 7. I'm going to swim in beer for 3 hours.
Well, it is at a brewery, so they could probably arrange that.
Excellent. All right. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Can Do and Enbridge today, and the three of you for hanging out with me this morning, and everybody who's watching or listening to this show. It's given us a real boost to know that there's so many of you out there that are paying attention to this and getting some enjoyment and some education out of it. So thanks for joining us, and we will be back tomorrow morning with the show that we're recording tonight, and then we'll be back on Friday with the big finale. See you then.